When the 2026 Toyota Camry launched, every channel on YouTube did the same video walk around the car, praise the hybrid-only powertrain, mention the 44 mpg rating, wrap up in 15 minutes. That review told you what the Camry looks like on day one. It told you nothing about what the Camry is actually like 6 months and several thousand miles later once the new car smell fades and the small stuff starts to surface. That is exactly the angle nobody has properly covered. And it turns out the real story of the 2026 Camry is not really about the car's core competence, because Toyota nailed that. It is about a handful of smaller, quieter frustrations that only show up once you actually live with the thing. A 6-month owner review circulating widely right now praised the Camry's 45 mpg real-world fuel economy, its roomy cabin, and its smooth hybrid powertrain, and then spent just as much time on the small annoyances that don't show up in a 15-minute walkaround. That is the review we are doing today. The subscription problem nobody talks about. Here is the detail that launch reviewers completely skip past. Toyota's Remote Connect app lets you remote start, lock, unlock, and locate your Camry, but only for a limited trial period before it becomes a paid subscription. Owners consistently report loving the app during the free trial, and then feeling genuinely frustrated the moment Toyota asks them to pay to keep remote, start working on a car they already own outright. This lands harder on the Camry specifically because Toyota has otherwise resisted the industry trend of burying every feature behind a menu or a subscription. The screen is not oversized, the gauge cluster is not distracting, and the interface rewards restraint rather than punishing it with complexity. That is precisely why the remote start paywall feels so out of step with everything else the car gets right. It is a small thing on a spec sheet. It is a genuinely recurring frustration in daily ownership. The recall story every prospective buyer should actually understand. Toyota recalled 51,644 Camry models due to an issue with their power inverter assembly that could cause the hybrid sedans to lose power, affecting 2025 to 2026 Camry models, along with 3,761 copies of the 2026 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid. The issue stems from the inverter that converts power from the hybrid system's battery to the electric motor. A bolt inside the assembly could come loose and create an open circuit, which could either cause the vehicle to go into limp mode or lose power, and in certain situations lead to a short circuit that could cause a fire. Toyota estimated 34 incidents related to the problem had been reported, along with 15 warranty claims, prompting the voluntary recall, with owners notified by mail by the 13th of February 2026. Here is the part almost nobody mentions in the panic newer Camrys built after November 2025 may not be affected at all, meaning the actual risk window is narrower than the headline number suggests. This is not a reason to avoid the Camry. It is a reason to ask your dealer directly about your specific build date before you sign anything, a 5-minute conversation that most shoppers never think to have. The oil spec debate, splitting Toyota owner forums right now. The 2.5-liter engine recommends a very lightweight 0W8 oil, seemingly chosen for better gas mileage, but some experts suggest using 0W16 synthetic oil instead, for better engine protection and longevity, especially in warmer climates. This is a genuinely interesting tension that no launch review touches, because it only becomes relevant once you are the one paying for oil changes and researching what actually goes in your engine. Toyota engineered the factory spec around maximizing the EPA fuel economy number, a decision that makes complete sense on a test track, and a slightly more debatable one, over 100,000 miles of real ownership in hot climates. Owner forums are actively split on this exact question right now, and it is exactly the kind of practical, ownership-only detail that only surfaces once actual buyers start comparing notes months into ownership rather than days. What actual owners are complaining about, not what reviewers assume. Toyota forum threads reveal complaints that never make it into a scripted review. Some owners note low rear headroom, specifically when the moonroof is equipped. Some report front seat quality issues that required a Toyota technical service bulletin to resolve, and lower trim buyers on the LE and SE occasionally flag more road noise than expected for the segment. The new Camry also includes features some drivers find intrusive, such as constant rear seat reminders and an overly complex adaptive cruise control setup that is less intuitive than older versions. None of these are deal breakers. All of them are the exact kind of detail a 15-minute launch review has no time to discover, because you need actual months of ownership before a rear seat reminder chime starts to genuinely annoy you every single drive. The Scotty Kilmer angle, a critique that actually matters. One of the most watched auto critics online recently posted his biggest complaints about the 2026 Camry, and his criticisms fall into three clear categories: build quality details, modern technology intrusion, and long-term ownership concerns. Crucially, his criticism does not signal buyer's remorse. He still considers the 2026 Camry one of the few modern cars worth buying new, viewing its shortcomings as evidence of the growing tension between Toyota's durability-first reputation and an industry increasingly shaped by electrification, regulation, and globalized production. He specifically criticized North American Camry production in Kentucky instead of Japan, a concern reflecting the wider industry trend of automakers expanding US manufacturing to offset tariffs, which places greater pressure on regional quality consistency. The inverter issue ultimately stemmed from supplier manufacturing equipment rather than a flaw in Toyota's hybrid design itself. That distinction matters enormously. It is not that Toyota engineered a bad hybrid system. It is that scaling production across more plants introduces more variables, and that is a genuinely fair thing for a prospective buyer to think about. The real verdict. After 6 months, the honest, unglamorous truth about the 2026 Toyota Camry is that Toyota got the big things completely right and left a handful of small things slightly unfinished. And that combination is actually the most reassuring possible outcome. For a car this important to Toyota's lineup, the hybrid powertrain delivers genuinely excellent real-world fuel economy. The cabin is spacious and comfortable, and the recall, while real and worth understanding, appears to be a manufacturing consistency issue rather than a fundamental design flaw, with a narrower affected window than the headline number implies. The remote start subscription, the rear seat reminder chimes, the oil spec debate, and the scattered build quality complaints are exactly the kind of details that never make it into a launch day review, because they only reveal themselves through months of actual ownership. If you are shopping a 2026 Camry right now, do not skip your local dealer's recall documentation. Do ask about the build date, and go in expecting a genuinely excellent car with a few small daily irritations rather than a flawless one. If this different kind of review helped you, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. If you own a 2026 Camry, what's the one small annoyance nobody warned you about?